Hello, new and faithful listeners, and welcome to Remainders, the podcast dedicated to exploring the wonder and joy that is the movies, the old, the new, the remembered, and the forgotten. As we record this episode, it is May 8th, 2024, and I have a feeling we're going to need our mothers more than George Eastman after watching this one. Welcome to A Place in the Sun. My name is Darren Varell, and joining me is my co-host, Patrick McIntyre, a man who used to bust DVD thieves so fast you'd think he was mall security. Back when we worked together at Suncoast Motion Picture Company in the Yorktown Mall. It's great to be back with you, Pat. So did those April showers bring you Mayflowers or what?
Oh, absolutely. It's beautiful spring weather here in Chicago. Sorry for laughing on your intro. You just got me. Didn't mean to cut in front of you on that one. So
no, that was the point. I was going to make a mother joke, and you got it.
Yeah, it was it definitely caught me off guard. But then you also got me thinking of mall security back in the day at Yorktown in the Chicago suburbs at the Suncoast Video. And did we have a big problem with theft back then? I guess we did technically, but I mean,
all I know is that there were many empty DVD sleeves at the end of the night when we would close up, and
that's right.
I think people used to slit them down the middle and then crack them open and grab the DVD and then just walk out with the DVD. So that the case was the one that had the magnet strip that would set off the alarm, and the thieves. Well, I guess you weren't very good at it if you don't remember it.
No, that's why I was kind of laughing at it. And I mean, I definitely remember that style of theft where people would just kind of cut into it and then take the disc. But my thoughts now are then those are fucking lame ass movie fans if they are and physical media keepers if all they care about is that disc and not getting the actual packaging. So.
Hey man, the world's not a fair place, is it?
True. How's it going, man? Good to see you.
It's going good. It's going good. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about this film. I was going to give a little synopsis here, if that's okay, for anybody who hasn't seen this film. Pat, I know
including myself. Yeah,
I was going to say, I think this is your first time. So, without further ado, it seems like we always spend the best part of our time just saying goodbye. God, that line kills me every time. A Place in the Sun from 1951 is an American drama directed by George Stevens. A story this epic calls for nothing less than the best casting, and in 1951, this trio was it. Elizabeth Taylor, Montgomery Clift, and Shelley Winters show up to create a love triangle so twisted that even Bermuda would get lost in it. As an audience member, we fall deeply for each of these characters, and this film owes much of its success to its cast, with a huge honorable mention for the great character actor Raymond Burr. A Place in the Sun brings the audience into the world of George Eastman, played by Clift, a poor man looking to get his foot in the door when he hitchhikes from his religious home to secure a job in his wealthy uncle's factory. George is poor, but rich in determination to break the cycle and turn from being a pauper into being prosperous. George secures a low-level position and begins to work in his uncle's factory. Here he meets Alice, played by Shelley Winters, and the two are forbidden to socialize outside of work, but of course, this movie wouldn't be any good if they played by the rules. The two begin to date in secret and enjoy a seemingly happy but unfulfilling courtship for George. As we move along in the story, George meets Angela Vickers at his uncle's big-wig Richie Rich party. Angela is perfection, a wealthy and gorgeous socialite played by Elizabeth Taylor. George and us as the audience fall madly in love with Angela, and from here, it's all downhill. The sweet taste of the good life George always wanted has arrived, but not without a cost. Alice becomes pregnant, and George is catapulted into the dilemma of marrying poor Alice or running away and marrying Angela. This double life George is leading boils over as he is given an ultimatum. Alice threatens to expose their relationship to Angela and her family if he does not marry her. George has been spending time at the Vickers Lake House trying to convince them he's the perfect groom for Angela, and he reluctantly agrees to meet with Alice to continue to conceal his secret. We'll be discussing what happens next between our characters in this episode, so if you don't want spoilers before you see this film, now might be a good time to press pause and come back after viewing. Today on Remainders, we'll be exploring what happens when you're forced to choose between the life you've always known and the life you've always wanted. This is one of my favorite films of all time. And Patrick, I know you haven't seen this film, so your fresh hot take, hit me with it.
I mean, you're always showing me how movies before the 1970s were so much better than I usually give them credit for. I'm kind of on the side where I love classic Hollywood. There's plenty of great movies, but I generally don't think like movies in general became fantastic until the 70s with the auteur movement. And so it's more of like kind of piecemeal in terms of the ones I love. And this is definitely up there. Like it's just one that like it feels so modern in this direction that I was genuinely thinking of like Citizen Kane because of a lot of the, not necessarily in how it looks or how it feels, but like the innovative directing style that that George Stevens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that he was given to it. Like, I mean, this is 51, right? And I mean, there are a lot of shots in here that, I mean, are just so ahead of its time. So that was definitely just one of the first things I was thinking, and how much I enjoyed it. It really is the directing and the acting that makes this movie stand out, and why it's definitely considered a classic, and why I can see it's definitely one of your favorite movies of all time. And we'll definitely get into more of the stuff that I liked about it. But like I said, the directing and the acting between the main three leads, I mean, chef's kiss for sure. On first viewing. And again, like I don't have I mean, this sounds like a movie you've been watching for years, and so I just watched it last night for the first time. So,
well, I mean, it kind of has it all too, because last time we were talking about the courtroom drama. I mean, you get that in this too, but that's like not the whole premise of the film. You know, that's the ending of the film, but like it's so crucial in the telling of the story of what happens to the character of George Stevens that it kind of culminates, you know, all in that.
It was so fantastic when Raymond Burr explodes in court and smashes the oar. I was dying loving that, and it reminded me so much of Charles Lawton in last week's movie, Witness for the Prosecution, and just the explosive nature of those two performances. Even though Burr's is like, Lawton was the lead of that one, but Burr is kind of a side. He's like the district attorney putting him on trial. And
he's out to get him. I mean,
yeah, for sure. And it's fantastic. But it just reminded me of those old explosive performances that they could be over the top, but they still had to be restrained because of the time. And it was beautiful.
What helps that scene, I'm sorry, I just want to say what helps that scene is that when he does bash that thing out, like you see a piece of that oar. Yeah, so for the audience listening, like he just takes the oar and smashes it down in the courtroom. And there's a piece of it that goes, and you think like those background actors could possibly be like impaled at that point, you know?
I definitely noticed that. And I was like, that was certainly a unique take that they were not expecting, and putting a few people in danger. Unfortunately, nobody got hurt. But one thing, so just maybe like overarching, so like once I realized what this movie was, so it's based on Theodore Dreiser's novel, An American Tragedy. I had never read that. I've read a different one of his books, Sister Carrie, which I don't remember too much. I read that a long time ago, so obviously it wasn't one that stuck with me. But realizing what the story was, and then as the movie started, I realized I have seen this story a couple times. So, I mean, this is basically the spiritual successor to like two Woody Allen films, Crimes and Misdemeanors and Match Point. It's basically the exact same plot and kind of style and vibe. And so like, that was also like a huge part of my experience watching this. So like once I realized that I was watching Match Point, it's like the amount of connections that Woody Allen drew from this movie were so clear, and just in terms of a man stuck between class and morality, and then these two women that one he's trying to pursue, the other he's obligated to, and where that inevitably leads to.
So I'm a huge fan of both of those films. Match Point, 2005. I was blown away by that film. Again, great cast. What is it? I got to ask you, because I have no idea really, but because I'm drawn to wanting Montgomery Clift to be with Angela Vickers. Like, that's why I'm saying it plays with the audience, because like, it's not right for him to be doing what he's doing. And nothing that happens in this is really anything but tragic for all of the characters, in my opinion. But what draws us to this kind of a story?
Well, that's a loaded question, I guess. Like one thing is just time. So I mean, it's a morality tale, but it was in the fucking 50s. So our morals have shifted so much, and I think that's one reason why this movie is not necessarily as remembered as other classic Hollywood films. For its direction and its acting, it definitely is, but morality is like the first thing to age poorly. That's just the nature of storytelling.
Why? Because there's no morals these days.
Well, just shifting morals. That's the natural process of a culture, is to you have different ideas on stuff. One thing is like the way they have to tiptoe around abortion in this movie, because they can't outright imply that she wants an abortion or is thinking about it. They have to basically imply it without ever actually saying it or showing it explicitly, as that is one of her choices. But to go back to your question, because it's tawdry and it shows us the choices that we make and sometimes the things that we don't get. That's ultimately why a story like this it resonates. Life is tragic, but it doesn't necessarily have to be suffering. So that's why, it's that middle ground. It's like you're going to experience tragedy no matter what, but you don't necessarily have to experience suffering. And it's, vacillating between the one and the two that I think is appealing.
The story itself, and I think this is it, there's so much, like maybe you said, it's a loaded question, and it is, because there's just so much to uncover here of why this guy who is watching it and is thinking Shelley Winters is not the right fit for Montgomery Clift. It's like he's just in that place where he doesn't know Angela yet. He doesn't know that life. He's not rich. He's not a socialite. He's not part of that crowd. He is a Eastman, which that name carries a lot of weight, but he's just kind of entering into this world. And we can all relate to being poor. We can all relate to wanting to better yourself. So when you finally start to see it uncover where he goes to these parties and he's starting to make his way up that ladder, like we all want in life, we want to achieve more. We want to have more, more money, or you want to, these are things that every American really values, and the perfect love life, the perfect mate, the perfect person that loves you, beautiful, everything. So when he finally gets it, but the conundrum and the genius of the story is that, yes, he's got it all, but do we side with him to continue going and to take that, and leave behind Shelley Winters, who's now pregnant and poor? And does he go back to that life and do the right thing, the moral thing, and marry her and have this life with her? Or does he, go and continue with this dream that he had, that he finally got? It's weird, because it's like, it really puts the audience in a place where it's almost like in Psycho, where you want that car to go down and you want Janet Leigh to be forgotten because you want Anthony Perkins to get away with it. Like, you are in that spot here, yeah. I feel. And that's what is why people find this movie maybe bittersweet, or maybe why they keep coming back to a story like this, is because it's almost like the ending of La La Land. You get what you think is going to be them together, and it's not. But that's why it's such a great movie, because it's just it leaves you unsatisfied yet super satisfied, if that makes any sense.
For sure. So, from my understanding, this was, so the original book is called An American Tragedy. So what happens in it is in the title. It's going to be tragic. But then the movie coming out in 1951, because the book I think was from the 1920s. From my understanding, it was kind of viewed as a critique of America, of America and capitalism and its failing morals.
Of course.
Yeah. So, and then from what I understand is Chaplin, Charlie Chaplin, he called it one of the most American films of all time, which sounds like a compliment, but I guess it was maybe even that's a dig of America. It'd be yeah, this is the most American movie of all time, because it's about a guy who's willing to murder a pregnant woman to gain status.
Right.
Yeah, and which led to his exile during the McCarthy era.
And it's also very telling that he's like coming from a religious background here and all that, with his mom and needing a mother and her, trying to find her everywhere.
And so as I'm kind of watching it, but like in a directing style, or I guess the writing style, is that like they really want you to want Clift and Taylor to end up together, which I guess is the moral quandary. It's like, what, like you're saying, it's like, why are we rooting for this love or to unfold and truly find its place when it's really just the product of like murder and failing morals? So
you're right.
I don't have any like stance on that. I'm just thinking like high level in terms of like how this movie was made, the story was made in like the early 50s as opposed to like the 20s, and then moving forward to now, and like what that feels like.
But I mean, that hasn't really changed. I mean, wanting to go after money and success is like still there, and wanting that true love or having the perfect life. I mean, that hasn't really changed. I
guess I'm also just thinking of like directing style, because like I said, like in the 50s, you could not like critique America. Like you would have been as part of the Red Scare, like you would have been like banished and blacklisted. Like you couldn't critique America, which is like about as un-American of a culture as you can have.
That's why artists found a way to do it.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. Like a lot of the directing styles, like how they, this, I mean, the sex part, like they have sex, but it's like completely like, I've never seen a sex scene like that, where it's like it shows them, but it's just completely blacked out in the corner. And then, like I said, like how they had to tiptoe around the idea of abortion. So, I mean, just for that alone, it's like it's an interesting movie to revisit now, just in terms of like how censored so much stuff was, like overt censored. Like you can make an argument for like soft censorship now for sure, in terms of like what you can and can't talk about, but like back then it was like actually the law, and like you could actually have like hard consequences for doing it as an artist.
Well, speaking of directing style, I think what adds to us as the audience falling in love with Angela Vickers and that whole romance of that life is the way it's shot. Whenever you see him and Shelley Winters, it's not very close up. It's usually from, a medium shot to a wide angle. And you're seeing them more in a subtle way. Like you said, it's in the darkness. It's all kind of in secrecy. The whole relationship has to be secret. And for a lot of reasons, dreary. It's dreary. It's raining when they're meeting, what you would think would be romantic, but instead it's kind of like really, really like dark and not, it doesn't connect very well with the audience. Now, juxtaposed with when he meets Angela and they're playing pool around the table and they're like kind of doing this dance. And then there's these close-ups. And every time you see the two together, there's these close-ups. And not only do they show those close-ups, but every time they show him thinking of her, they do the flash back to that. And then they do a lot of those, following up with like poor old Alice waiting by the mailbox to see if any mail is going to come, or, the phone's going to ring. It's a melodrama before Douglas Sirk was making him a household name. I mean, this was really, really done well to show you what you should be rooting for and what you shouldn't be.
Yeah. I mean, a couple of things, like I was saying, going back to like the moment I realized I was watching Match Point was how they met. So they meet on the pool table here, and in Match Point, they're playing ping pong. And like, that's the second that I realized that they were going to meet over a pool table, I was like, this is 100% taken for Match Point in terms of the game that they're playing and how they meet. ScarJo is just playing ping pong and all sultry and again, like I can think of the lighting becomes more warm at that point in the movie. But yes, the dreariness when Shelley Winters and when they're courting is like so obvious. It's like, this is the working class girl that he's going to, struggle with, as opposed to the socialite with Elizabeth Taylor that he could have a seemingly better life with. And poor Shelley Winters. So I didn't realize that this was actually the same actress from The Night of the Hunter until like halfway through the movie. she's like the ultimate sad girl actress. Like she is so like she's fucking great in this movie, and just in terms of conveying like her sadness, and not in like any type of like really annoying way, or she's not seen as like anybody like dragging him down at all. She just genuinely plays like a very sad character, and Shelley Winters is incredible in it. And also, and spoilers, so we'll get to the spoilers now. Her demise in the lake. I'm like, oh, poor Shelley Winters is again drowning at the end of her role. It's the exact same in Night of the Hunter. This poor actress keeps on having directors have her drown in a lake. And Charles Lawton, after seeing this, he's like, I'm going to drown you again, but I'm actually going to make it a little bit more poetic and show you sitting at the bottom of a lake in a car. So
that scene is so amazing. Yeah, totally. So to get to that scene, as a person who had not seen this film before, did you know that was going to happen on the lake? Were you feeling it?
Well, like I said, I knew how the story was going to unfold. It was clear that he was between these two women, and however it unfolds, like he's going to lead to the death of one so that he can be with the other. Like I said, seeing the story with the two Woody Allen films and understanding the influence, I definitely knew it was going to play out like that. I did not know it was going to be ambiguous. Even though it wasn't. I mean, it was premeditated. He was definitely fine with it, but then the ultimate story is the ultimate conflict is whether he did anything to save her, which he didn't do. But then, yeah, seeing Shelley Winters drowning, that was the most comical part of it, as we just, like I said, as we just saw in Night of the Hunter, the same demise.
But I think that when I first watched this film back, I mean, I've probably seen this film over 20 times. I'm a really big fan of it. And I think over the years, I've come to terms with like that he did mean to kill her. When I first saw it, I remember thinking, I don't know. Because, that's the point. I think you're trying to I think the filmmakers are trying to say like, did he not, and obviously he doesn't even seem to know. I think I obviously realized
which I think that's more believable. I think that's more interesting is that whether or not he knows, because I mean, he gave a fake name. It was pretty clear that he was leading up to a scenario where this woman would be taken out of the picture.
But what he says is like, yeah, I wanted to, I was thinking that, but then when we were in the boat, I didn't want to, but it's also hard to believe that because in the boat, you have him getting so frustrated when she's talking about, we're going to be poor, but it'll be okay. And like you said, she's so good. And you're like, almost at that point, the audience is like, shut the fuck up. Like, I don't want that life. I don't want to fucking struggle my whole life. God damn it. And then she stands up and you hear him say, stay where you are. And then the boat tips over. So it's weird. It's like a push and pull. This whole movie, in my opinion, is a push and pull of like what's right, what's wrong, what you want, what you shouldn't have, what you should have. It's completely playing with the audience the whole time. And for that reason, I just can't get enough of this film. And I'm continually finding, like, even after watching it last night, more things that I love about it, as it grows older.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's definitely remembered, but again, it flew under the radar in terms of me. I mean, this was like did this win Best Picture, an Oscar for it? It was definitely nominated for it.
I think it was nominated for 6 Oscars. I don't believe, I don't know if it won. Let me see. It won Best Motion Picture. Yep.
Yeah.
And Best Director, Best Actor.
Yeah. It's swept.
Actress. Yeah. Swept.
I mean, it's kind of an example of like sometimes the Oscars aren't necessarily the gauge for remembering. I mean, I was thinking the other day, when was the last time you watched Coda? Best Picture winner Coda. Are we still talking about that movie?
I don't think I've seen it at all.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So,
but dude, I'll tell you what. Like, I think you're wrong. I think people think about and I think this film's pretty remembered.
No, I'm not saying it's not remembered. I'm saying just as. I just generally don't hear it talked about as much as other classic Hollywood films. That's all.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But again, I think it certainly deserves to be up there because of the directing and the acting. I mean, this is some of the best aesthetics that I've ever seen from a classic Hollywood film. I mean, there are just like so many small nuances. One that really stuck out to me is when he was on, it was in the court scene. He's on the stand, and there's just like this quick zoom up to Cliff's face and the sound of the loon when it was. Oh, yeah. It's only like 2 seconds, but just the movement of the camera and then just the sound of the loon. I mean, that's pretty rare to get like stuff that innovative back at this time period and before it. So, I mean, there are just so many directing choices that, again, I definitely understand why this is such an important film to you.
And editing. I mean, going and building up to the scene where Shelley Winters ultimately meets her demise. I mean, it was beautifully played. The back and forth between him, leaving her and going to the vicar's place, and like the dad talking to her, and finally the dad is into him and is like, yeah, you're cool. And then it's like he's got to leave for a little bit, then he goes and does this, and he comes back, and you're like, damn, is he gonna he's got to get away with this, right? He's got to have this life. This is so great. It's like everything is playing into it itself, like, oh man. And like the loss of like innocence, and when they show that whole like lake house like packed up and closed while the trials go, I mean, like I said, melodrama for sure. It's really, really done up.
Now, there is somebody who loves this movie as much as you, according to my research. David Mamet, in his new book, Bambi versus Godzilla is the name of the book. I haven't read it yet, but he lists this as one of the 4 perfect films. So essentially one of his 4 favorite films of all time. And it's interesting, like the 4 films that he's put with Dodsworth, which I haven't seen, The Godfather. So it's Dodsworth, The Godfather, this, and then the 4th one is Galaxy Quest, which I'm with him on Galaxy Quest.
Not surprised, Pat.
Galaxy Quest is so good. But yeah, I was I'd love to see that list that he gave as the 4 perfect films. Because, I'm all about there's no high art or low art. There's just good art. So they go in the same conversation as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's funny. There's an old English teacher that I had in college, and he would always tell me that it was so cool when I would find like teachers that were into films, because like we would like rap on them, and it was kind of like college felt a little different to me because of the fact that like it seemed more like the teachers were your peers than they were your like, you know what I mean? Yeah. It was like almost like a little bit more adult. But anyway, I had this one teacher, and he used to talk all the time about The Graduate being the best perfectly made film of all time. I don't know. I've never really fallen in love with The Graduate like everybody else has. I mean, I like it, of course, but to call it a perfect film, I was like, for an English teacher to call that film a perfect film, like he's like, nothing could be wrong with that. Everything top to bottom is perfect. And now here I am all these years later saying, I think Place in the Sun for me is damn near close to a perfect film.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for one, it's just subjective. So, I mean, that's just the number.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anything can be perfect in your eyes.
Right. Humanites from the Deep is also a perfect film, in my opinion, but, way different.
I mean, different. Although you can quantify it like on almost like a mechanical level, like some people call the script, not necessarily the film, but the script for Back to the Future a perfect movie, because every single line and image, or just everything in that movie gets called back at some point, like to the clocks, to the food. I mean, just everything that happens and you see in that movie gets kind of some sort of callback or finish by the end of the movie. So like I've heard people kind of point that script and execution as like a perfect film. Like I said, almost on like a scientific level, you can actually trace everything in the movie back to something else. Hence, it being the perfectly close-ended film.
Oh, I'd argue the film is pretty perfect as well, but
I wasn't arguing against that. I'm just saying for sure.
But yeah, the whole thing with movies like this is like it's giving you a lot of what you can have and what you can't have, and it ends with what you can't have. You can't have that American dream. You can't have that perfect life, and on top of that, you're gonna die because you can't have it. Like it's so well, the name of the original book, right? An American Tragedy. I mean, you know, in the American tragedy is that you couldn't have the American dream, you know.
Well, because so the timing on that is interesting, because in the 20s, I mean, you had the Depression, I mean, just extensive poverty. I mean, you were supposed to be critiquing America, being like, we're not doing a good enough job at all. But then like 30 years, that's when the book was written. But then 30 years later, when this movie comes out, you were not allowed to trash America at all. So that's what makes it like such an interesting execution from book to screen. So,
yeah, I mean, there's a lot to think about when you think about it in terms of when it was made, right? Yeah. But I think the general theme of the American dream hasn't really gone away. You know, people still want that, you know, house with the picket fence, and you know, I'm not necessarily. It just sounds so stupid. I'm not necessarily talking about you and I. I think.
Oh no. I'm just saying.
I'm saying in general, the consensus of America does feel that they want what they were told and brainwashed to think that is happiness from an early age, which is, you know, the perfect relationship, money, the great car, the house, all that shit.
I was more, not laughing from my own perspective. I just mean like that idea. I think the consensus is that's kind of closed out to most people. It's more pessimistic, I think, in my lifetime ever, for sure, on that, quote unquote American dream. So that's more of why I was laughing. Cause like,
I mean, every single person that I went to high school pretty much is living what their version of the American dream. I just happen to be the guy who just wants to do art for a living and doesn't really care too much about that life. I mean, I think the thing is it's safety and security, right? That's really the thing. But then, you know, this film plays into another thing that Americans and the rest of the world, a human emotion, which is love, you know, and the kind of love that you can't have. Like, there's no doubt in this film that there's no real connection between Shelley Winters and George Stevens here. You know, it's like they're just kind of together because they're both in the same position in life, and they're both kind of like going along and running it parallel. But when he meets Angela, there's no doubt, because of all the things we're talking about, because of the way it's directed, because of the way that the actors play together, you know that they both love each other and it's real. And it's like, this is where he finally this is who he should be with. But he just happened to get in a predicament.
Is that predicament? I was thinking about it. Is it just timing? Is it just bad timing on his part? I mean, what if he met Elizabeth Taylor first, right? There would be no movie, right?
Right.
Okay.
No, there would be no movie. That's the thing. What I said in my beginning is like, if they didn't, you know, if they followed the rules and they didn't socialize, he would be fine. He'd be off, jet skiing.
I wasn't sure if I was missing something. If it was just like, is this just bad timing on this fucking guy's part?
Okay, so audience, because A Place in the Sun, it's a movie about bad timing. I mean, pretty much.
Because Match Point, I'm not like comparing the two, but he's basically taking the same story. But Match Point is because he's
deception.
This is how Match Point's different. And again, I've seen Match Point like multiple times since it came out, so that's why I'm more familiar with it. But like, so he's with his wife and he does like her, but then it's with Scarlett Johansson, it's just more of like a, you know, lusty fling. He doesn't have any feelings for her. And so that's why she ends up with a shotgun to the face, which is way more overt than the partial sinking of Shelley Winters. And so that's why that one's not timing at all. But that's why I was kind of getting thrown off with this movie. It was like, is this just unlucky? Which is the other theme of Match Point. Now that I'm thinking about that, that's the final line. I just hope that he's lucky. It's all about that ring not going over the edge, and that's how he ended up getting out of it, because he was lucky.
Yeah.
So Montgomery Clift just had bad luck, I guess, is in terms of timing. So
totally. And I was just laughing a little bit as you were saying Shelley Winters drowning in Loon Lake. I mean, wow, this movie has it all, doesn't it?
Oh, you're definitely, every episode that we go back, you're definitely convincing me more of classic Hollywood for sure.
Yeah, you know, it's funny that I don't know what it is. I think there's just some kind of innocence about the 50s, or that's almost an idea too. I'm sure if I lived there, it wouldn't be as innocent as I thought. But it's post World War II. Everybody's sort of doing well. There is that like, perfect idyllic home life, and everything seems to be okay. There's no turmoil. But like again, there is lots of problems. We just don't see that, or we don't see it in their movies or whatever. That's why to place this film in 1951 and to have this kind of drama in there, it is going against what you think about the 50s, or it's challenging what you think the 50s were all about, which is like the perfect life.
And also just, I read it a lot as like, I mean, when you watch some of these movies, it's not overt, although this one kind of is. It's like him being married with a child. It's like that was his own personal death, for sure. And so to like have that, like you said, contrary to the perceived idyllic notion of the 50s, which doesn't, family life was not really any more structured. It was just more repressed, and marriage was just common, and everybody wanted to get divorced. They just didn't get divorced. And so watching these movies now, it's like, oh yeah, people are unhappy married, and they still wanted just that idea of love at the end of the day too, which is certainly universal.
Yeah, which brings me back to the ending of this film.
Like the very end scene with the priest and the mother.
I don't know, like how I could feel and be more emotional in a film like than Elizabeth Taylor dressed all in black coming to visit Montgomery Clift in the fucking jail cell. How
old was she supposed to be? Sorry to cut you off. How old was the character supposed to be? Why did she end up? I was so thrown
Shelley
off.
Winters says that she's supposed to be 22. So I would think around in their early 20s.
I mean, but I was just so thrown off when they cut to Elizabeth Taylor in like class. It's like, how old was she supposed to be? Like, I thought she was just like an adult and working, fully completed school adult, but then they cut back to her like in school.
Yeah, and I think mostly why they're doing that is to say like she's trying to move on with her life and continue in that like socialite world that she's in, and just like do things like normal, even though she's reading the newspapers and she's seeing all the things about what's happening to George, and she's still in love with him. She's having a hard time moving on, and then when she goes into that jail cell at the end, to me, I'm just like, my heart is just like, oh, it's on the floor. It's like, God damn it. Like, because that's when you realize like, this is it. And he says, love me with the time I have left and then forget me. And it's like, oh, fuck, like, God damn, like you just want them to be together so much, but he killed Shelley Winters. Like, and just a minute before that, he's visiting with his mom and the priest. And the priest says, what was in your heart when Shelley Winters was like dying? And he doesn't say anything, but you can see on his face he was thinking about Angela. And even though that, when she comes into that room, you want him to still be with her. You want them to run away together. It's kind of the same thing, like I said at the end of La La Land. I want them to be together, but like the movie wouldn't be half as good if they did end up together. Like what makes this movie great is that they can't be together, and that he marches to his death at the end. Because it's an American tragedy. I don't know. We're here for it for some reason. And that's what I'm saying. I don't know why. I guess I have to really think about it. Maybe you guys listening out there can help me along. But why is that so appealing to me? Or why am I so drawn to it? Why am I so drawn to tragedy? Why am I so drawn to things that I can't have, or things that we can't have? Why is it because we're brainwashed to think that that's the perfect situation, and to not have it is like hell on earth, or what? I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out.
I mean, you're asking the question of the human condition, so that's certainly a loaded question for one. I don't know, man. You got to answer that for yourself. I can't. I have my own theories that I could share. I'm not going to share for the world, but we could talk about that after the podcast.
Oh, okay. That's very juicy, Pat. I can't wait to talk about that.
Right. No, the human condition for one. I mean, it's in our natural state to want things, and that's the the tragedy of
I
humanity
believe
in
in
general.
love.
So yeah,
I believe in love, man. And everything,
romantic love or the universal love, because those are two different.
I
things.
mean both.
Yeah, okay.
But romantic love for sure. I believe in it. I believe, sometimes in life it's the world has tried to get me down to think that I don't believe in it, but I do. I'm very much into loving someone or something, and for the right reasons, and giving that to somebody. So when that story of love and it's jilted or it's broken or whatever, like, it gets me every time. Hence my band. I mean, every fucking song is about a girl and a guy, or a guy and a guy, a girl and a girl, like whatever it is that you're in love with, a break in that, and what happens after that, or what happens because of that, or what happens to you and how you feel. Like, every single song in my band is about that. And because everybody can relate to that. I don't think there's anybody in the world that doesn't have love in their heart. Maybe not you, Pat. I don't know. I know you love Godzilla.
Bold statement. Yeah. Well, everything ends. We definitely learned that from Buddhism and also 6 Feet Under. So that's a universal truth. And so I think that's one reason why you're attracted to it. And yeah, I can definitely understand that. So.
Everything ends. That's maybe that's it. Like, maybe we have a hard time grappling with that this love can't last forever, or this feeling of joy can't last forever, because everything ends. Everything has an expiration date. And that's hard, I think, for us as human beings to grapple with. Of course, that's why death is such a hard thing to wrap your head around. Why does that happen? Where do we go? What happens to the love that we had? Like you said, maybe that's why we love 6 Feet Under, because they explore a lot of that.
Yeah, our monkey brains can't fully comprehend it. So,
You'll get deep here on this episode of Remainders. I like it.
Non-attachment. That's the name of the game. So,
well, I think we've covered a lot of this film. Is there anything else you wanted to add about it? I mean, I'm just going to say straight up that it's one of the greatest films ever made. I've loved it. And it's one of those films that you watch and you don't need to have the answers why. Well, however you are as a person, however you were brought up, whatever your morals, your values are, you're going to relate to this film in some way. And I would venture to say that you're going to have a hard time not thinking about it once you leave your seat from viewing this film.
Well said. Thank you for showing me this. I think I touched on everything I wanted to. You just mentioned Godzilla. We'll tie in Raymond Burr, star of the American version of the original Godzilla, the edited version where they just sliced him into that. You're familiar with that, right?
I'm not.
Well, okay.
I mean, I've seen Godzilla, but I don't remember Raymond Burr being in it.
Well, so you probably saw the Japanese version, which is 1954, and the 70th anniversary of it now. And so they had the Japanese version as a Japanese film, but then for American audiences, they have the American cut where it's literally just scenes of Raymond Burr reflecting on the experience, and then they would just cut back to the original film and continually go back to Raymond Burr's scene of it, like him sitting in a car reflecting on it.
Wow, how do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, it's fucking interesting. It was just like in the 50s, they were like, yeah, we have this Japanese film, but we need an American white man if we're going to play it in American theaters. So, I mean, that's the one that was played on TV back in the day. Like, it was usually the Raymond Burr version. But I haven't seen that one in years, but, just a nice little tie-in. It's pretty funny to have the idea of them like, all right, we're going to make this palatable to American movies and just have this guy reflect on the experiences while he's sitting in his car coming back from it. So, well,
and Raymond Burr, I mean, everybody that listens to this podcast, I'm sure knows him from Hitchcock's Rear Window,
right? Okay.
As Thorwald,
Yeah, that's right. I mean, because I don't see that mentioned as much as which I've never. I guess his show Perry Mason. I
right.
guess
Yeah, sure.
I'm not familiar with that too much, but that's apparently what most people, I guess, would be familiar with Raymond Burr from. But I've never seen that For me, it's
Yeah,
Godzilla.
I mean, again, if you watched TV back in those days, you would be familiar with it. I remember we used to sell those Perry Mason DVDs at Suncoast, actually.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I was like, what is this shit? So I'm watching Polaroid instead. So
yeah, Polaroid. That's right. That sold a lot too.
No, this is fantastic. I think I hit on everything I mentioned. Like I said, totally understand why this is one of your favorites, because it is a masterclass in classic direction and acting. So,
yeah, thanks for entertaining me and wanting to watch it. When we were talking last week and we're talking about courtroom dramas, I was like, oh man, A Place in the Sun, like, just has it all. You know, it really, like last week's movie, we talked it was a little bit more heavy on just like the judicial system and how that plays out. You know, this has like a little bit more. I mean, it was very complicated as far as the story goes. You know, this one's a little bit more like, this is what's happening. You know, there's little left to the imagination. Sans maybe, did he mean to do it or not? You know, otherwise it's pretty straightforward in the storytelling and what you're getting and what you're signing up for in A Place in the Sun.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is more on the emotional side. Like I said, I think the most interesting component of it is whether or not he believes what he did, rather than how it actually played out. It's like what's going on in his head, whether he actually believes he did something or not. It definitely was the most interesting part to it.
Yeah, and either way, it doesn't matter because the result is still the same. You know, goodbye, George Eastman.
Got to practice that non-attachment, Eastman. Come on.
All right, so A Place in the Sun from 1951. Everybody out there, go check it out. It's one of my favorite films of all time. I'm so happy to talk about it. Thank you for listening. And this is the part of our podcast where we talk a little bit about ourselves, what we've been doing, what we've been watching, what we're consuming these days. And then we go to a music pick of the week, which you're not going to want to miss mine. It ties into the film. But Pat, have you been up to anything cool? What's going on at the Music Box over there in Chicago? What have you been seeing? What have you been reading?
What did I? Oh man, yeah, I went. They had a screening of Master and Commander.
Oh right.
Oh my god, it was the first time I'd ever seen it on the big screen. This is one that I've talked about before. How much it is. It has become one of my favorite post 2000 films of all time. Like I saw it. Like a lot of people only discovered it like quickly after COVID happened, like during lockdown. It was the first time I'd ever seen it.
I mean,
like
just barely post 2000. It's 2003, if I remember right.
Yeah, I just mean like, my favorite movie, one of my favorite movies of this century. But I, like I said, I only saw it 3 years ago for the first time, and it's such a fucking classic. I absolutely love that movie. So, and they talked about the switching rights and why it's hard to get an actual screener of that movie because it's technically owned by Disney now, and they don't let anybody screen their movies. So they were saying it was basically the first time you could see this on the big screen since 2003, and they kept it with the original previews because they got an original print. So they had two previews from 2003.
What were they?
The first one was your boy Tom Cruise in The Last Samurai. Which I did see that in the theaters when it came out. And then the day after tomorrow, that Jake
Gyllenhaal, right?
Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal, that Geo ice storm movie where just the weather was just kicking everybody's ass back in the day. So it was a perfect setting to watch a 2003 film. So cool.
Yeah, they do they actually did that when I saw Ghostbusters here at the Vista. They kind of like New Beverly does the same thing. They'll show like stuff from the time, and they had this like LA smog pollution trailer before it that I thought was just amazing to pair with like.
Oh, it was like a PSA.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
And they had, but they had like people walking by the Vista back in like the 80s or whatever it was, and like talking about keeping LA beautiful. It's fucking choice, man.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's an interesting movie in terms of timing with the 80s and how the bureaucrat was the bad guy in that movie, being like, what are you guys doing? This is probably not a good idea, but he's turned into the bad guy of like these three assholes using nuclear energy to fight ghosts. But the bureaucrat asking questions is the bad guy. That's such an 80s.
And then letting them all out.
Yeah. It was so good. So that was fun. I got our physical media. I haven't even opened this, but I got this in the mail just this week. It's Shout Factory's new release of their Killer Clowns from Outer Space 4K. So they got this new pressing.
Awesome.
So this is the steel box version. Like I said, I haven't even opened yet, so I'm excited to enjoy that. I had to get this as soon as it came out because there's been a couple of different editions that come out over the years, and they just are all limited editions. So like, one run and they're done. They go out of print, and so I had to get my hands on this one.
And
as
a
fast
4K
as possible,
version, dude. Hell yeah.
Yeah, so I'm very excited to see how that one turns out. And it's a good time for Killer Clowns. They also just released images from and gameplay from the new video game for PS5. Nice. And so...
Well, I think they somehow the rights got released last year. I saw that...
It had to be. Yeah.
Yes, it did. Yeah. And they started selling shit like crazy. But I saw the haunted house at Universal Studios. It was literally the clown tent. And outside it had the Pooh Bear. Where is that? And he would, while you're in line, that guy would come out and do that thing like 50 million times, nice. Before you entered in. And dude, the haunted house, it was just like the movie, but in real life. And my girlfriend had never seen the film, fucking scared out of her mind. I mean, and I was too, dude. It was like walking through that fun house. It was so good. I wish they would do it again, but I don't know. It's like maybe a one and done. It was so good.
Yeah, like I said, something must have happened with the rights because I know the Kyoto brothers, the practical effects guys who directed Killer Clowns from Outer Space. They've been on comment for years saying they would have turned it into a full blown franchise. We would have 8 or 9 films if they were allowed to make it back in the day, which they weren't. So that's why I mean. It's when you think about it, it is very surprising. There's never been any sequels or anything at all related to it. And like you said, because of the rights, because that, in any other world, a movie like Killer Clowns we'd be getting the 11th or 12th movie by now. So,
that could have been really blown out of proportion. It could have been like the Halloween franchise.
I love franchises. We talk about it all the time. I'm all for horror franchises, but at the same time, I'm okay with Killer Clowns being its one and done special thing. That's nothing is sullying it by any types of too much.
They've tried to do clown stuff since, and it's just never been as good as that film. It's I watched on your Shudder the other day. Forgot what is it was pretty bad, but it was actually enjoyable just because it was just whatever. I forget. He's like a oh boy, I forget what it's called. Darn it!
What happens in the? How about we turn this into
the jackal or the?
You describe the movie and I'll try to guess it.
Yeah. He's dressed with a top hat and he's got playing cards and has her pick out the card and the guy dies in the beginning because he makes him hang himself. But there's this stupid convoluted story of 2 sisters who I don't know the jackal The Jekyll, I don't know. Anyway, never mind.
What time frame? 80s?
No, a couple years ago.
Oh, okay. I don't know this one.
You could probably just look at your Shudder of what Darren's watched on there, and it was it'll show up. It was fucking terrible. But anyway, long story short, it was still
clearly you don't remember it, so it didn't.
Whatever.
Didn't have any lasting impression on you. So.
Mm-hmm. But I've been enjoying your Shudder. I don't know. Lately, it's just I just want to escape to some shitty horror movie like that. Just kind of put it on at the end of the night. I don't have to really pay attention, but I love that shit.
Yeah, we got Joe Bob's got a new episode this Friday, so always fun.
I've never watched any of those Joe Bob things. I know people are really big into it. What's the appeal?
Was he on your radar back in the day?
No.
He's been around. Okay, he was a movie critic, a B movie drive-in movie critic in the 70s, and then in the early 80s, and then by the late 80s and into the 90s, he had Monster Vision. It was on TNT. It switched around a couple networks, but he was the host. He was kind of like an Elvira, where every week he would present movies, talk about them in between. And so for a lot of people our age, he was the guy introducing you to a lot of horror movies for the first time. And, back then it's you just had whatever was available on TV, on TBS or TNT at the time. So what he was presenting, he exposed a lot of people to horror for years. And then he kind of took a break. And then with Shudder, they gave him an opportunity to come back. So like 6 or 7 years ago was when he started doing The Last Drive-In. And it's the same format, but it's entirely on Shudder. You know, he presents his movies, he talks about them, gives context. He's incredibly knowledgeable and prolific about film, especially obviously horror and B-movie horror. So, I mean, he had Roger Corman recently. He had, I'm forgetting his name, the lead, Lloyd Kaufman from Trauma. You know, he's always having legends of horror come in because he's very knowledgeable, and it's always great. I mean, and again, like, he's always showing movies that are worth your time. So if you're looking for just good B horror movies, whatever he shows is going to be at least worthy of you checking it out. So
yeah, that's what I like about Shudder, is because it's got that thing that Criterion has where you could just pop in or like see what they're playing and, you know, see if you like it, kind of like regular TV. But I guess that's why I don't know about Joe Bob, is because I never had cable as a kid. In fact, I don't think I only had cable in one period in my life, and that's just because it came with my apartment, RCN back in Chicago. So for like maybe 7 years of my life, I've had cable, but that's it.
I mean, you were ahead of the curve. You're like, this is a waste of money and time. But I mean, well, but yeah,
my parents
were. Yeah, back then, I mean, you know, I don't know. You know, you were definitely more not wasting your time. I mean, that's why I was raised on a television, because I had cable. So, you know, I just had access to all of it. So,
yeah.
But no, I would definitely recommend checking out The Last Drive-In. Like I said, it goes live every other Friday night. That's what the current season is. But all of his episodes are available, so you can watch them present the movies at any time. So
yeah, it's cool. I have to check that out more, because I've been loving your Shudder. Hopefully you're taking advantage of my Criterion. They've been curating some really great shit. They got some 1999 curation now with like some of the best movies. And like, I started watching the other day Go, which I hadn't seen since, I haven't seen since back in the day. And I'm kind of like, damn, you know, like, really,
it was viewed as like a ripoff of Pulp Fiction at the time. People were just like, this is just a ripoff. But it's like, I mean, stuff like that always ages well. So
it ages well, and that's the thing, is like, Criterion's like, take a second look at this film, you know? And so I'm only like, I started watching it one night when I was really tired, and I only got like 20 minutes in, but I was like, oh, damn, I got to really watch this in one sitting and really pay attention. Because, I think you kind of dismissed it back in those days, you know? And also Sarah Polley being like one of the leads in that. I love her.
Very good. I'm excited Friday for the new Planet of the Apes movie. It's going to be great. Although I don't have a lot of faith in it too much. It could be great though. As I've mentioned, the last trilogy, the Andy Serkis trilogy of him playing Caesar, I think is one of the most underrated sci-fi trilogies of all time. It's an absolute masterpiece from start to finish, all three of those. But he and the director have nothing to do with this new one. So as a Planet of the Apes fan, I'm going to go see it, but we'll see how it turns out. So.
Interesting. Yeah. I know that they started showing one on HBO Max. So I was thinking about dipping into that one.
Like of the original movies?
One of the Andy Serkis ones you're talking Andy about. Serkis. Yeah. Maybe it was the last one.
It's a fucking masterpiece of a sci-fi trilogy. Like the themes that, especially the second and the third, the Dawn and War for the Planet of the Apes, the themes that it explores in terms of humanity, because it really is just the story of apes ascending and humans descending. So like in the middle movie, they're basically on the same level. So you have a lot of questions of morality, of purpose, of individual choices, as one species is going down and the other species is going up. So there's so many great themes about humanity that they explore in that. And then it's just, Andy Serkis is an absolute beast, because he is the star of the trilogy. There's no human character throughout the whole trilogy. He's the only constant character of the whole trilogy. So it makes it so unique, and Serkis is absolutely fantastic. So
very good. Very good. Well, enjoy that. That's this weekend, you said?
Comes out this weekend. Do my best. You know, if I'm not playing Killer Klowns from Outer Space, we'll see how it goes.
Well, cool, man. Yeah. Over on this end, doing a couple more of these for your consideration screenings with my girlfriend. We're going to see a Fallout screening tonight. Do you know that show with Jonathan Nolan's show?
No. Is it based on the video game? I know Fallout video. Oh, it is? Okay.
It is. Yeah,
I know there's a video
nothing,
game.
I know
there's
of
a
the
video game
but yeah.
exists, but I didn't know there was. Is it a movie or a show?
Yeah, so it's a show. I haven't watched the show either, but again, these for your consideration things. It's like a television academy thing, and they want you to vote for them. So
Gotcha.
my girlfriend's in that, so she gets to go to these, and she'll tag me along as her lackey guy who loves Hollywood, and I just get to enjoy free drinks and food and watch a cool screener with some celebrities in the attendance, and
You get to tag along as with your socialite.
Yes,
lady
exactly. Yeah, exactly. See, this is just like A Place in the Sun, just without all the murder.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're doing that, and I've been enjoying those. It's been really cool to go and do some Hollywood stuff. That's why I love this place. It's like, it's just full of magic. And other than that, yeah, I just working hard and enjoying some films when I can. I think I told you, I finished the Rick Rubin book, which I enjoyed a lot.
That creative something.
Yeah.
I've heard good things about that. Yeah, I haven't read it yet.
I liked it. It's for a guy like me who doesn't, I read a ton. I love reading, but I just don't. I don't do well with things that aren't biographies of people, and I don't do well with things that aren't short, unless Quentin Tarantino writes it, and then I get really excited about it. But yeah, I mean, I have been enjoying just sort of the little tidbits that he has about creation, and I definitely recommend it to anybody who just wants like a little bit of maybe a little push to see that somebody else out there like understands them the same way that it's very much about a creative life and what it takes to live that life. And so I think that's why it resonated a lot with me. But finished that. And now I am getting ready to continue to enjoy the warm weather that's been here. Finally, it stopped raining. There's been flowers everywhere. It's been really beautiful.
Sounds like you're soaking it up. Speaking of Tarantino, I guess he abandoned his last the movie.
I heard.
Yeah. So he's back to the drawing board, I guess, because
shocked.
When he says he's done with something, he's definitely proven that he's definitely done with it. So I guess everything that we've talked about and he's exposed, because there were some conflicting details on like who the star was and kind of the vibe of it, and so I guess he's just something happened and he's moving on to something else. So.
Yeah, I was pretty shocked when I heard that. It was kind of a blip in the radar. I didn't really hear too much about it. All of a sudden one day my girlfriend's like, did you hear Tarantino's not doing that film anymore? I was like, what?
Yeah. I mean, you never whatever he's doing is going to get over covered in the media, just in terms of like just exposure to like any updates. So like, even if it's not like that solidified, you're going to hear about it a lot more. So
that's what happens when you're a great artist.
Yeah. So people are following every rumor that even comes out. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm just curious on like what kind of timeline it's going to be. I mean, I could see him taking his sweet time with it, which I'm totally fine with. But,
if it's his last film, let's make it great. Maybe.
But I mean, speaking of like, I mean, we've talked about this. Like, he's not going anywhere. He's gonna be writing plenty of books for you to read in the future, and plenty of other stuff, just not film. So there's not going to be a void, Tarantino void in the future. So
thank God.
Yeah. There you go.
But yeah, so I'm going to fast forward then to our music pick of the week. So for me, there's not a lot to be said about this, except for the theme of this film to me really fits with this song. And so I just wanted to pair this song with this film, even though this song was used in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It really belongs in A Place in the Sun, which is Please, Please, Please by the Smiths.
Look at you.
And you would have thought that the Smiths would have made the list of songs before, but I don't believe we have a Smith song on there. It's just like, please, please, please let me get what I want. Lord knows it would be the first time. It's like the melancholy fits well with the melodrama of A Place in the Sun. So I wanted to pair these two. Love the song, of course. Love Morrissey, of course. Everybody that listens to this has heard me gush about Morrissey a million times. But yeah, great song. That's my pick of the week. I want it on that jukebox.
Love it. Yeah, melodrama is a good way to put it. Yeah. Got a little yeah, it gets a little melodrama with The Place in the Sun, longing for love with murder.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
or all right, so please buy the Smiths. Yeah, you're right. The Smiths were not on there previously. Had you put a Morrissey solo song on there recently?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So, I
I don't know
mean,
how to pick. That's probably why they're all so good to me.
we haven't had any like over the top characters lately because I usually text you a charming man quote with any experience, with any like insane characters from the movies we have. But it's been kind of light because we've been a little art house and classic Hollywood lately. So I'm sure I'm going to get back into that soon.
Yeah, we'll have to see what your pick is next week, you know? Oh,
I mean,
by the way, just real quick, I watched Jackie Brown the other day, the first time in a while. And talking about the star of Alligator, Robert Forster in there. Yeah. Fuck, man.
One of his most underrated movies.
It is. It's
because it's so adult, you know, because I mean, obviously adult because it's the two main leads are like very adult characters.
Yeah. Older,
much older than
definitely in their 40s at that time. Right.
Yeah. And playing that age, you know, Brad Pitt's old, but he's not playing like anybody like in that age bracket. But it's such a great movie, largely because of that, but you know, plenty of other reasons. It makes it so unique.
Yeah, totally. Fucking loved it. Anyway, your music pick of the week.
What is my music pick of the week? Okay, yeah, John Carpenter, new album from him. He's got his fourth album of original music that he's been doing. Lost Themes 4 Noir is the title of the album. And the song I'm picking is the opening track, My Name is Death. This album has got some of the best song titles that he's ever done. Just to name a couple of them. My Name is Death, Machine Fear, He Walks by Night, Beyond the Gallows, Kiss the Blood Off My Fingers, and Shadows Have 1,000 Eyes. I mean, he is keeping his poetic horror soul at heart, even though he's just not making movies anymore. So I mean, I just love that. So Carpenter is one of my, one of the most important directors that I've been watching my entire life. But yeah, he's been done with the movie game for a while. I still have never watched The Ward, which was his last movie starring Amber Heard. And I just found out a young Sydney Sweeney was in that movie as well. So, but nobody has anything good to say about that movie. He's been done with movies for a while, but he has been, rocking the music and performing live. I've seen him a couple times, two of the best concerts I've ever been to. And his synth rock that he's been making is very much in line with his horror past. So
with his son, right?
It's with his son, Cody Carpenter, and Daniel Davies. So it's the three of them making up the band. And it's been, I'm just happy that he's still a working person, working creatively and doing stuff, even though it's just not in the director's chair anymore. So My Name is Death. It just feels and sounds like the theme of one of his 80s movies. So, it's not like he's doing anything new, but he's just keeping up with what inspired him for decades. So
awesome. I can't wait to hear that. I just saw that they did a What's in Your Bag at Amoeba Records here in Hollywood, where they go through.
Where they just go and just pick out albums? Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so all three of those guys did that. And
what did John pick out?
Well, I haven't watched it yet, but I just saw like a little tag on Instagram or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, he's a lover of classic Hollywood. John Ford, one of his favorite, obviously. So I'd be interested. I'm sure he's got a lot of great music picks as well. So,
oh yeah, for sure. Well, awesome. I'm so glad we watched Place in the Sun. Finally got to get that into your wheelhouse and to talk about it with you. And always an interesting conversation, since you and I, as much as we have similar tastes, we also have different tastes. And I think we could both agree that A Place in the Sun is worth seeing.
Oh, couldn't recommend it more. Again, I mean, as somebody, like I said, as I am a modern cinema lover, and I'm always learning about classic Hollywood. I know the staples, but it's the ones that fly under the radar that I need to have you show me some guidance. So I appreciate
I'll always be here to do that. Don't you worry. Thank you everybody for listening. We are on all the social media, and you can find all of those at our website, www.remainderspod.com. We love to get conversations going outside of Patrick and I. So if you have something to say about this episode, good or bad, let us know, and we would love to have a conversation with you about it. Let us know, did you like A Place in the Sun? Did you like any of those previous movies that we've covered? This is episode 58, so you can go back and listen to a wide range of movies that we've covered, and I can't wait for more in the future. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of this, and Patrick, I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Talk to you later, bud.
See ya.